Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom. We're here every Sunday for you from 2 to 5 Eastern. If you're out of our terrestrial network, all you have to do is stream us live. Yeah, just go to davejanda.com, hit that listen button. It'll take you to Wham Talk 1600's streaming service. Hit the play button, and you're with us every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. We're also available on our YouTube channel, also named Operation Freedom, and available 24/7 at davejanda.com, both the free, the public side, as well as the subscription side with the extra content, extra shows, extra analysis. I believe one of the biggest bangs for the buck in all the internet. Come on, become a member of our Freedom family. It's very easy. All you have to do is sign up, try it for a month. If you don't like it, well, you can always get rid of it. Not sure why, because the information and analysis and guests you get, you will not get anytime soon or ever in the bought-off lamestream fake media. You know, the bought-off lamestream fake media has been using the term whistleblower repetitively on someone who really isn't a whistleblower, who's a gossip blower. How do you tell the difference? Well, a whistleblower is someone who has the wrath of the government, the wrath of the deep state come down upon them for blowing the whistle on information the deep state did not want anyone to know about. The current gossip blower is embraced by the New York Times, the Washington Post, government bureaucrats, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi. Oh, they love this gossip blower. And right then and there, that should tell you that this person is a puppet of the deep state. Who's a real whistleblower? Let me give you a couple names. Two people I consider my very dear friends, Bill Binney and Kirk Wiebe. President Trump is a whistleblower. General Michael Flynn is a whistleblower. His attorney, Sidney Powell, is a whistleblower. In fact, the entire Flynn family are whistleblowers. What happens when they blow the whistle? Well, they get prosecuted. They get beat up in the media. Stories are created to denigrate them. It's apparent when you have a real whistleblower versus a fake whistleblower or a gossip blower, as I call them. I mean, just look at Bill Binney and Kirk Wiebe. When they became whistleblowers in October 2001, when they blew the whistle on the NSA, well, they had their homes, if you will, visited by the FBI. Robert Mueller was a director at that point. And in fact, Bill Binney, when the FBI agents came in, they had their guns drawn, pointed them at Bill, scare the living daylights out of his family. Now, if you're a whistleblower, the deep state's going to make you pay a price. I'm honored to have back with me a very dear friend of mine, Bill Binney. Kirk Wiebe would be with us today, but he's on the road, battling the weather and trying to get back home, and we wish him and his family safe travels. For those of you not familiar with the iconic Bill Binney, let me give you a little background. Bill is a former highly placed intelligence official with the United States National Security Agency who turned whistleblower and resigned on October 31st, 2001 after more than 30 years with the agency. Bill was a high-profile critic of his former employers during the George W. Bush administration and continued to speak out during the Barack Obama's presidency about the NSA's data collection policies, and continues to give interviews and is a regular on those shows regarding his experiences and his views on interception of communication of American citizens by government agencies. It's not just confined to the NSA, folks. Bill and Kirk, they paid a price for that, because on June 6th of this year, they came on this platform and announced that they actually had been involved in what are called parallel platforms, illegal surveillance platforms that were created by the government outside of the NSA, such as the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Defense. Prior to June 6th, the only person who had come forward about parallel platforms and illegal surveillance occurring outside the NSA was an individual by the name of Dennis Montgomery, who has been defamed and slandered and libeled by many people for blowing the whistle on illegal surveillance. Bill was a Russian specialist and worked in the operations side of intelligence, starting as an analyst and ending as the technical director prior to becoming a geopolitical world technical director. Doesn't get much higher than that, folks. Having expertise in intelligence analysis, traffic analysis, systems analysis, knowledge management, and mathematics, Bill Binney has been described as one of the best analysts in NSA history. I always have to laugh. There are these folks that say, I disagree with Bill Binney or I disagree with Kirk Wiebe. It's funny, the people who disagree with them are people that have limited to no functional knowledge in information technology. Today I want to start off our interview with Bill talking about a recent 60 Minutes piece that declared, without a doubt, that the Russians hacked the DNC computers and in fact were involved in Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. It's my honor to welcome Bill Binney. Bill, your take on the 60 Minutes piece.
Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, they just are pushing the fabrication that the government has pushed upon us in the Mueller indictment. And that was clearly challenged in court, in federal court, when, one of the main arguments they had was that the Internet Research Agency was a troll for the Russian government, and it was one of the main arguments they were making. They were the ones who were doing the advertising on Facebook and so on. And the IRA, the Internet Research Agency, decided they would send lawyers into court to challenge that because they said they had no connection whatsoever with the Russian government. And in federal court, the judge ordered them to prove it. And they failed miserably. I mean, they had absolutely no proof. It was simply a wild allegation, another fabrication on the part of our Department of Justice and FBI and others. CIA was involved in that for sure as well, But the point is that this was a fabrication they submitted to the court. Now, this is not the first time they've done that. They did that in our case, too, in the case of the NSA whistleblowers. They fabricated evidence to submit to a judge who didn't know any better anyway. And this was a national security issue, and they're out to lunch on this. They have no idea what's going on. So they simply said, this is very serious, so I'll sign the warrant. So that's how they ended up in our houses getting guns pointed at me anyway, and my wife and son. But in there were fabrications, and made up lies. And they also did that when they went to do an indictment on us. They tried to draft an indictment. And again, they were fabricating lies, and we listed out all these lies. And somebody at the Department of Justice felt so bad about that they sent us a draft copy of that indictment. So we had listed all of the lies that they were telling about us and all the things that we were prepared to deal with in court, as well as malicious prosecution. We had evidence of malicious prosecution on their part, and it was pretty obvious, and we had them dead to rights. That's why they ran away from us. But again, it's this Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA, and all of them coming together to concoct lies to get rid of people they don't like or people they want to silence. The IRA made it very clear. I mean, the judge in that case said, he basically admonished them and really ripped them a new one, and basically said, you will not mention this again. You have libeled these people, concocted this, this whole fabrication, and you have proven absolutely nothing here. Well, I mean, that was just the one part. The other part, and the main part, with the Lucifer 2, was another part in that Mueller indictment and so on. Well, I mean, we had forensic evidence that we could show that it wasn't. The guy claimed it was a hack from Russia or from Romania. He claimed he was a Romanian, but he said he was hacking it into the DNC and pulling the data across. Well, we proved that you couldn't do that. It wouldn't go across at the download speeds that he posted. He posted all these articles out there, and we calculated the download speed on every article. And each article said, the highest one we have is 49.1 megabytes per second. The lowest one was 19-point-something megabytes per second. None of them would go across the web. The fastest, we tried it from Albania, Yugoslavia, Belgrade, and several places in the Netherlands and in the UK between data centers in New Jersey and London. And we could show and demonstrate forensically that you couldn't get it across. The fastest we could get was between those two data centers, and the one in New Jersey and the one in London, and that was only 12 megabytes per second. It was little less than one-fourth the necessary capacity to send the highest rate that we had calculated from the Lucifer 2 data. Plus, Lucifer 2 put out two batches of data. One was the 5th of July of 2016. The other was the 1st of September of 2016. So if you looked only at minutes, seconds, and milliseconds, those two files would merge without conflict into one. And so you ended up having one file downloaded once and then separated. How he didn't go into figuring out how he separated, but he did separate into two files. and then did a range change on the date and the hour on the one file on 1 September, and posted it as 2. So he's playing with the data. He's playing with us. This is total fabrication. It's a fake. This guy's been a fake from the beginning. Obviously, my sense is all the timing we had on all the data that he had showed he was in the United States, in the East Coast or Central Time Zone, and we had one case, I think, in the West Coast time zone. But all those timestamps were in the U.S., not over in Europe somewhere. And besides, the high speed of download showed that you couldn't transfer that across the internet, so it wasn't a hack, and we could prove that. And then the other part was all the DNC data that the Mueller indictment said the Russians got and gave to WikiLeaks. Well, when we looked at the WikiLeaks posting of all the metadata, all the DNC emails, the 3 batches, one on the 23rd of September, one on the 25th of September, and one on the 26th of August. All those items, there were 35,813 emails in there. All of them showed a last modified time rounded up to an even numbered second, which meant that it was the file format, a FAT format, the file allocation table format in the process that automatically changed those. So that meant it was read because that file is used to read data to a thumb drive or a CD-ROM or a little storage device. So that says that, hey, there's the evidence in that says this data was physically transported before WikiLeaks could post it. Now, this is basic evidence, that they're ignoring. They don't even talk about this. And then there was Craig Murray, who said he met with somebody, and Craig Murray was the former British ambassador to Uzbekistan, I believe it was. And he said that he met with someone on the American University campus in Washington, someone who was involved in the transfer of data to WikiLeaks. And then Kim.com said he helped people get the data to WikiLeaks. And then, you had Julian Assange, who said it wasn't the Russians. So you had all of this evidence that said it wasn't the Russians and forensic proof to show that it was something locally downloaded. And so it was physically transported, all of this stuff, before WikiLeaks got it and before Lucifer II got it. It was all physically transported.
So in other words, Bill, you saved potentially our country, you, Kirk, and your team. The 3 years of the goat rodeo we've been through about this fake Russian collusion issue. And to this day, a week ago, 60 Minutes put this report out, quote, confirming that it was a Russian intelligence officers that were involved in this hacking issue. Bill, you have the data, which doesn't lie, the evidence that shows that this whole thing could have been wrapped up 3 years ago with what your team did.
Oh, easily, yes, that's for sure. Yeah, they could have done it actually right after WikiLeaks posted the data. So, I mean, it was a matter of lack of discipline on the intelligence community and their inability to. I mean, maybe they didn't believe it was in the public domain, but WikiLeaks posted it, so it was out there. They should have looked at that data just to see, what it was like and what was involved in it. And if they did, they would have seen that, but they didn't. So maybe they didn't think to look for the last modified times. I don't know.
Well, and Bill, we just had this Roger Stone verdict come through. And tell me if I'm wrong, but you had submitted an affidavit in that case, correct?
I certainly did, yes.
Okay, and the judge, Amy Berman Jackson, who I believe was an Obama appointee, what did she have to say about the evidence that you presented at that trial?
She would not let that be introduced.
Under what grounds, did she say?
I did not see that. It was just denied.
So, Bill, tell me if I'm wrong, but Bill Binney, Kirk Wiebe, your team, you introduced this evidence. If it was allowed, in court, it would have blown apart this whole Russian collusion narrative.
That's correct. It would just, basically make it a clear fabrication.
Yet the judge would not allow it to be entered.
That's right.
So,
I mean, it's a matter of, it's really a matter of not allowing anything that is contrary to the generally accepted narrative of the mainstream media and fundamentally the Democratic Party.
I mean, there's this long track record, Bill. Many people say, well, why all of a sudden did the government stop? Why did they start doing this thing about fabricating evidence and lying about evidence? Bill, this isn't something new. This has been going on for years, and as you mentioned earlier on, it happened to you.
Yes, and in fact, the FISA court, they themselves discovered that the FBI had lied to them in getting 75 warrants back in August of 2002 is when that article came out. So, and that was published, and they openly admitted it, and they did absolutely nothing about it. Just like, what has the FISA court done with all the lying they were doing with the Steele dossier?
Good point.
I mean, it's the same thing. They're still being lied to, and they know it, and they have done zero about it. They could have held these people in contempt. They could have issued citations against them for prosecuting for perjury in the court. They
right.
could have done that.
Well, and I might have this wrong, but I thought in the FISA court, which is overseen by the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Roberts, that they have an internal review system basically within the court, and if they believe they're being lied to, they have a structure in place to go after the people that lied to them. I have yet to hear that something has been implemented through Roberts and this internal review system as it relates to the people that presented to them the Steele dossier as being legit.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't heard anything either, and I don't see those people doing any acting in any way, and they should be. I mean, even the Supreme Court was lied to in Amnesty International versus Clapper, that case when it got before the court. It was again challenging the bulk collection of data and the use of data collected by NSA against individuals in criminal cases. And they said the Solicitor General lied to the Supreme Court in that process. He said, well, if NSA data was ever used against anybody in a court of law, criminal case, they would be told. And the judges would be told, and the defendant would be told, and so that he could have his due process under the Sixth Amendment, where he could challenge discovery of any data used against him. But no, instead they used this in a parallel constructed data, substituted that for the NSA data, and called it the evidence they used to arrest the person. And this is called perjury. And the fact that the Solicitor General said that every defendant would be told, none of them were told, and so it was an outright lie.
Well, we see. So we know it happened to you and Kirk. We know it happened on this FISA fabricated scenario through this Kleinsmith who fabricated or changed the FISA warrant applications. We know what happened to General Flynn. They changed the 302s. They edited, right. And there are like 5. There's supposed to be 1. There's 5 of them floating around, and of which they were edited by people such as McCabe and Lisa Page, who weren't even in the room when he was interviewed on January 24th, 2017. I mean, this is just a part of the way they do business, Bill.
Yeah, unfortunately, they should be. I mean, they should all be, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to charge them with malicious prosecution. I wanted to take them into court and go after them. That was my whole idea, and I'm still trying to at least get something into court that addresses that. In the Third Circuit, I have a case going with Elliot Shukart, a lawyer, and we're working in that case where we're talking about them, and I used some of the material from Snowden as exhibits because I know about this material. Mm-hmm. So I told him I was ready to testify, and so. And they're slow rolling that one too. So it's a matter of, but we're still going. So we're not dead yet. So we're still trying. But again, the judges are, they should be a little more forceful here. I mean, I don't know why they aren't doing this. I mean, they all take an oath to defend and protect the Constitution. It's a part of their job. Their whole job description is built around that. I mean, that's the president has a special where he has to not just protect and defend, but also preserve. He has the charter to preserve the Constitution. So that's where he basically meaning that he's not allowed to change it. In other words, unilaterally, which is what's been happening. They've been unilaterally doing this behind the secret door. there's that secret door again. Once they go behind it, you can't ever tell what they're going to do.
Well, and then they merge the Russian collusion hoax, as that was into this Ukraine hoax, based on this telephone call that the president made to President Zelensky. And in that call, I think the magic word he uttered that got him in trouble was CrowdStrike. Right?
Yeah.
Where he mentioned CrowdStrike. And educate our listeners about CrowdStrike, because CrowdStrike was essentially the firm that was utilized to analyze the DNC servers that they were in fact hacked, when in fact they got no evidence, do they, Bill?
No, in fact, they controlled the access to the DNC servers, and they did supposedly they did the analysis, but they never produced the final report. By the way, as far as I know, it's never been produced, and it's something that they allege that they've done. But they have not given the basic raw data to the FBI to verify or validate. So that means, very simply put, there's no control of evidence in any court of law that they want to take it to. They simply did not have control of the evidence. As far as I know, they still don't. So why? I mean, these folks simply are not coming forward with that, and they kept that very secret and wouldn't let anybody see it. So. It's again, they're controlling the basic evidence that should be public, and they're basically it's making it hiding everything that they call evidence. It's the same with the Schiff committee. They're hiding everything. It's a matter of they don't really have anything. That's the point.
And when people do step forward with evidence, they're demagogued. They are actually beyond demagogued. They are targeted.
Yes, they are.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, and you're living proof of that.
Yeah,
and so was Kirk. And so are, and we've talked about this before, but for example, on the illegal surveillance front, when we started talking about there were other platforms outside of the 702 abuse and the NSA system abuse that was occurring on what are called parallel platforms of illegal surveillance that was done by the FBI, the CIA, the Defense Department, you name the military branch, right? When individuals started speaking about that, they were, demonized, slandered, libeled, defamed. And then you and Kirk came on my platform and spoke about the fact that you had been involved in parallel platforms, and then it shifted over to you and Kirk being defamed and slandered and libeled. And anyone who comes forward who's legitimate gets attacked, Bill. Yes,
unfortunately that's true. And again, it's just too bad that we are quite prepared to testify in the court that these things exist and that we were a part of some. I mean, that's not a problem because we know what the program names and everything are. So it's not a question. I mean, it's not just one program too. There are many of them.
Many. That's right. Many.
So it's not this is nothing new. I mean, they've been doing this for years.
Well, and in fact, prior to June 6th of 2019, when you and Kirk came forward, the only person who had spoken about these illegal surveillance platforms, these parallel platforms, was this guy Dennis Montgomery. And then you and Kirk came forward and spoke about this, and the reason is because anyone who comes forward gets demonized. And Kirk came when we asked Kirk to analyze this stuff, and here's a statement he made, and I spoke to him the other day. He still stands behind it, and I want to know if you do too. All the documents you testify to the effect that Dennis Montgomery, the guy who first talked about parallel platforms, in particular something called a hammer, testify the fact that Dennis Montgomery was involved in developing surveillance methods for the U.S. government, that the latter entity believed the U.S. government would pose grave danger in the national security if divulged. In reviewing them, I did not see anything questionable or that would indict what Montgomery has said. That is from Kirk, and then you said, I agree with Kirk. Bill, I know Kirk still stands behind that. Do you, Bill?
Of course.
So
yeah, and it's not just that it's not damaging to the national security. It is exposing the crimes that they're committing.
That's correct. Exposing the crimes.
That's really what the issue is. It's not a question of being, damaging to national security. I mean, even even the alleged damage to the national security by the Edward Snowden releases was a farce too.
Right.
I mean, it didn't do anything. I mean, the point is, so they know, and the Edward Snowden shows the extent to which they collect data on the fiber lines. Well, everybody, all our opposing potential adversaries know that already. In fact, they're doing the same thing.
Bill, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. That's right. This is the exposure of the criminals within the government usurping the rights of millions of Americans. Folks, until next week, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Bill Binney is the epitome of that statement.